We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Moving on to Bobby. Bobby M. Last week, Bobby asked about being able to use a 100-inch projection screen when his throw distance is only 9.5 feet. Furthermore, he was hoping his 2.35 to 1 content could be larger than his 16 by 9 content. I understand, but boy, that gets complicated. Yes. Our response was that he would need to move his projector farther back. Bobby wrote back to us some more details. He has exactly 139 inches from the back wall of his room to the screen, and realistically, with the projector itself being not quite 18 inches long from front to back, the farthest the lens of the projector can be from the screen is 9 feet 11 inches. As a reminder, he was planning to sit 11 feet from eyes to screen, meaning his seat would be right up against the back wall.
Yeah.
Using Epson's throw distance calculator, he'd be able to use the 100-inch screen size with the projector as far back as possible. But he'd still prefer for that 2.35 to 1 content to be larger than 16 by 9. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I get where you're coming from.
I understand it just does complicate things. If he were to use a 92-inch 16 by 9 screen, could he keep that same height, 45 inches, and make 2.35 to 1 content wider? Now, there is a series of mathematical notes here.
Yes.
Would you like me to read?
Oh no, those were there for my reference, so that I'd have numbers on hand.
This is where we get to the point where I say I did not know math would be involved. And I claim, look, I did just take an ibuprofen.
Well, these are mostly numbers. Yeah. I've done the math so that I have the numbers at hand.
Okay. Well, then let's have you explain this. I'll try to follow along and ask questions for anybody who's losing it.
Right. So I want to try and make this as simple as possible. So first of all,
which is why there's a paragraph of notes with numbers.
That's right. His room is not terribly long. All right, and he's figured out the farthest that the lens of this projector can realistically be from the screen is 9 feet 11 inches. So that's it. That's a hard number. That's as far back as this lens can be.
Jammed all the way back against the back wall, and I hope he's taken into account any cords that might stick out the back of the projector.
Yeah. So it's that's leaving basically 20 inches, all right, from the lens to the back wall, which gives you like a 2.5-inch gap for cords to stick out the back. Okay. So when you do that, if all you're using is the Epson projector, because he's talking about an Epson 5040 UB, or maybe the new one that they've introduced, the 4000, the Home Cinema 4000. Both of those have the same throw distance. Both of them have the same lens angle and all that. If you have just the projector and you put its lens 9 feet 11 inches away from the screen, the widest the image, all right? We're talking about the width of the image, not the diagonal.
The width of the 16 by 9 image.
Yeah.
Coming out of
just the width. I'm trying to keep this as super simple as possible. Yeah, the widest the image can be is 88 inches.
Okay.
All right. So what this projector would be doing, you've set it up as far away as you can do it in this room. You've zoomed it all the way in, so it's throwing the biggest image it possibly can. From this distance, you can make the image smaller, but you can't make it any bigger. You've zoomed it all the way in, just like zooming in the lens on a camera until you're zoomed in as far as it can go. That will be 88 inches wide and 49.5 inches tall, which is a 101-inch diagonal 16 by 9 image, all right?
Right.
Now, with the projector all by itself, you cannot get any wider than that.
Right.
There's no wider to go. So if you kept that same width and you made it 2.35 to 1, so it's still 88 inches wide, but now it's 2.35 to 1 instead of 16 by 9. Now it will be 88 inches wide, but 37 inches tall.
So it's a foot less tall when you're watching 2.35 to 1 versus 16 by 9.
Right. So if you just remember that the width stays constant in this scenario. All you have is the projector. It's as far back as it can be. It's zoomed in as much as it can be. 88 inches wide is the maximum that you can do. All right. Now, if you're sitting where you've said you want to sit, which is 11 feet from eyes to screen, at this point you have a 36.5 degree field of view, which is nice.
It's nice. I'd like a little more for a projected image.
It's maybe a little bit on the small side, all right? But that's what you could do. 88 inches wide is the maximum. That means 2.35 to 1 content would be 37 inches tall, all right? And if you were to then use that height, that 37-inch height, as your height for 16 by 9 content as well, right? You zoom the projector out, the image gets smaller, it stays 37 inches high, but now it's not as wide. That would result in a 75-inch diagonal screen. So what you'd be talking about is a 75-inch diagonal 16 by 9 image and a 2.35 to 1 image that's 88 inches wide, which is about 95 inches diagonal for 2.35 to 1, all right? So none of that is exactly what he was after. He basically wanted 88 inches or 87 inches wide for 16 by 9.
And then even wider.
And then even wider. Well,
Same height, even wider.
He was talking about a 92-inch 16 by 9 screen, all right? So that's 80 inches wide and 45 inches tall. Then he's like, could I keep it 45 inches tall and make it even wider for 2.35 to 1? Well, if you did that, to be 45 inches tall, it would have to be 106 inches wide for 2.35 to 1. Now, what did we say the maximum width was? 88.
88.
You can't make it.
Coming straight out of the projector.
Coming straight out of the projector. So coming straight out of the projector, you can't do what you said you wanted to do, which is to have a 92-inch diagonal 16 by 9 image, then keep that same height, which is 45 inches, and make it wider for 2.35 to 1. The widest you can get is 88, and you're trying to get to 106. Can't be done with the projector all by itself. Now,
but there's an answer.
There is something you could do, which is to add an external anamorphic lens in front of the projector. This is a minimum $1,500 cost for a good anamorphic lens. Now,
one that doesn't color the image or, have any.
That's right. Alter the shape, make it dimmer, change the geometry, do anything nasty to the picture. You
really wouldn't want to skimp on an anamorphic lens.
Now, there are people who they've bought their own prisms. They've made their own anamorphic lens for far less than $1,500. It can be done.
I mean, people make telescopes.
Sure. The results are a little bit hit and miss, and man, oh man, do you have to be precise. So it's a tricky thing to do it yourself. It can be done though for less. But if you're like, this is all I want to do, is have a 92-inch 16 by 9 screen. I want to sit 11 feet away from it, and I want to have that same height but make the image wider. The only way you can do it in your scenario, since you cannot move the projector any farther back, is to put an anamorphic lens in front of the projector.
So do you literally buy a contraption that you attach to your projector and some sort of, steampunk-looking thing in the
it's just an anamorphic lens that you mount to the ceiling in front of your projector. Okay. And that lens sits in the light path between the projector's lens and the screen. You've just inserted a lens.
Just to get a sense of this sort of price range for people that don't know much about this stuff, this $1,500 is a stationary lens that you'd have to go and move it with your hand.
Well,
and push it in front of the projector's lens.
You can actually just leave it there all the time.
Okay.
It'll work. When you're playing 2.35 to 1 content, the projector has a mode where it'll just stretch everything vertically. Okay. Everybody gets tall and skinny, and then the lens stretches them widthwise to make them wider. And then when you're watching 16 by 9 content, it actually puts black bars on the left and right and squishes everything so that when the lens stretches it, it looks correct.
I got you, but that's not the ideal picture quality coming out of your projector for 16 by 9.
It's a pretty decent way to do this, which saves you the hassle of having to get a motorized, movable anamorphic lens, which you're looking at $3,500 and up. Unless you make your own. People have made their own. You can. But my point is, this is a not easy and pretty expensive venture. And when your goal is to have a reasonably affordable projector, adding an extra $1,500 to $3,500 on top of that just for a lens seems like it's different. If you're buying a $25,000 projector, then that seems like a reasonable percentage. But We're talking about potentially more than doubling the cost of the projector itself just to get this lens. So there's an easier solution to this.
Oh.
Which is to move your seat closer to the screen.
There you go.
Which I would advise anyway, because I don't like the idea of having your seat right up against the back wall. I would far prefer for you to have... Now, he's talking about this being a dedicated theater room. It's not being used
I
for
wouldn't
other
want it all the way
purposes.
against the wall either.
Yeah, so... Okay, you had in mind an 11-foot viewing distance. I'm going to suggest to you a 9-foot viewing distance, right? I've moved your seat 2 feet closer. Now you have 2 feet of space behind your seat, which is nicer acoustically. You'd have room to put some absorption back there. I'd still stick with 5.2.4 because he was talking about an Atmos setup before. I still wouldn't bother putting surround back speakers behind you because you only have
still too close, yeah.
Only 2 feet of space behind, but it's nicer to have that 2 feet of space behind you. And now you're 9 feet from eyes to screen. Now, now you stick with that 75-inch diagonal 16:9 image, the one that's 37 inches tall, right? From 9 feet away, that's giving you like a 34, 35 degree field of view. Really nice for 16:9. And then you can expand it to 87, 88 inches. You can do that because the projector can do that. And now you have a nice, what did we end up with there? I forgot it's 43.5 degree field of view.
Right. So are you suggesting he zoom the projector or?
Yeah, what I'm suggesting is you sit closer, you sit 2 feet closer.
Yeah.
So now you're 9 feet from eyes to screen. When you're watching 16:9, so the projector still as far back as it can be. That hasn't changed. Projector still as far back as it can be. But when you're watching 16:9, you now zoom out. You now actually make the image smaller.
I got you.
You make the image 37 inches tall. All right?
Now, can this projector, like a car seat that memorizes positions, can it do that? And memorize 2 settings?
It has lens memory, so it will remember your zoom setting, your lens shift setting, your focus setting, which is all motorized.
Oh, dude, that's the answer.
It's a lot cheaper than buying the lens.
Look how much you taught us to show us why that's the answer. That's the answer.
It's a lot less
lens.
hassle. Yeah. So, I mean, he was asking, can he do the whole lens zooming thing, but starting with the image already as wide as it can possibly be? And the answer is no. There's nowhere wider to go.
No, geometry. Stop.
That's the widest that you can get, right?
Got it. So scooch closer, and when you watch
2 feet closer,
16:9, zoom out to make it smaller.
Yeah. Make the image smaller,
and then maximize the 2.35 to 1 by zooming in. Yeah. And so then the projector can memorize those 2 different zoom settings.
That's right.
Oh man, yeah. That's so much better.
So you're still buying a 2.35 to 1 screen. All right. You're just buying one that's 87 or 88 inches wide. Right. So you buy a 2.35 to 1 screen that's, let's call it 87 inches wide, 37 inches tall. Right?
Yeah.
When you're watching 2.35 to 1 content, you've zoomed the projector in as far as it can go. The projector's as far back in the room as it can be. You are now 2 feet closer to the screen, and you've zoomed it in as much as it can be. It's filled the entire 87-inch width of that screen. When you watch 16:9, you zoom the projector out. The image gets smaller. Now the full height is 37 inches, but it's only 65.5 inches wide, which is a 16:9 aspect ratio now. And now you have the smaller image, same height, not as wide for 16:9, and you use the lens memories in that projector.
Rob, you've done a wonderful thing. You took me on a mathematical journey, and now I'm thinking about something in a way I haven't thought about it before. And that's spectacular. I don't know how you feel, Bobby, but he took me there and brought me back, and now I understand it.
And like I say, if you're like, I don't care what Rob says, I'm not sitting any closer. I am sitting at 11 feet, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Then the only way to do what you want to do is to put an external lens in front of that projector. It can still be done. I'm saying it can still be done, but that's the only way to do it. So
that's Rob saying you can disagree with me, but it'd be dumb.
But it'll cost you. It'll cost you. But who knows, right? I mean, that's fine.
I love that idea. I've never even thought of it that way, because you think that, I'm shrinking my 16:9, but not really. Just think of that as a starting point, and you're expanding your 235.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. There you go, Bobby.
Want your question answered? Send it to question at avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.